Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get our program started. Let me introduce myself. My name is Isabel Briggs. I work for LA County Library. I am the Arts and Culture Program Coordinator. And we are super excited to be joined by some wonderful arts and culture representatives themselves. I have a few housekeeping notes I just want to go over about the Zoom before we get started. First of all, as you may have seen in our slideshow at the beginning, mics and videos will be muted in this program for all attendees. There will be a Q&A towards the end of this program. So if you have questions or comments while you're listening in, please use the chat or the Q&A function to submit any of your questions that you may have for our panelists. And we will review and get to those, as many as we can, at the end of our program. If you are having any technical difficulties, again, please use the chat to connect with our staff. We can try to help out and troubleshoot, and let us know if you need help. You can also call into this program as well. And we will wrap up around 5 o'clock for all, so everyone knows. All right, without further ado, I would like to pass it over to Kristin Sakoda, who is the director of the LA County Department of Arts and Culture, who is going to kick us off and introduce this event. Thank you, Kristin.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here and excited to have everybody joining us for this special conversation. As was noted, I'm Kristin Sakoda. I'm director of the Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture. And a little more about that in just a moment. But first, we'd like to begin with the County of Los Angeles land acknowledgement. The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We're dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians Quiche Nation, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. And if you'd like to learn more about the First Peoples of LA County, you can also visit the LA City County Native American Indian Commission at their website as well. And we'll put this in the chat. The land acknowledgement you just heard was developed with direct tribal input by the LA NAIC with support from the Department of Arts and Culture. So April is Arts Month. And while we only have a couple more days left, I'm really happy to be collaborating with the LA County Department of Arts and Culture together with our colleagues at LA County Library, because it is the perfect way to celebrate Arts Month. And we're really fortunate because this year we get to mark 20 years, so the 20th anniversary of the LA County Civic Art Program. The Civic Art Program is actually a policy. The LA County Civic Art Policy, which was adopted by the Board of Supervisors a little over 20 years ago, allocates 1% of the design and construction costs of a county capital project for new artworks or conservation of existing artworks, art programs, and services. And it's the LA County Department of Arts and Culture through our Civic Art Division that manages the Civic Art Program and the Civic Art Collection. So just like you might think of a museum possibly having a collection of artwork, we have a Civic Art Collection that essentially is owned by you. It's part of our public and civic collection. So our Civic Art Division, every time there's a project, help to identify what's the project opportunity. They lead the selection process to select the artist who will get the commission, and then supports and works alongside the artist as they do community engagement and as they create their one-of-a-kind site-specific artworks for county facilities, buildings, and sites, including dozens of our county libraries. So this year, we were so pleased to partner with the LA County Library to offer a number of programs highlighting civic art and the civic art that's at the libraries. Hopefully, we'll talk more about the Civic Art Passport program, which was a fantastic way to see the different artworks at the libraries. And maybe there's a link we can put in the chat about all that as well. But today, we are joined by three phenomenal artists from our Civic Art Collection who are here to discuss their experiences and practices as professional artists, creating public artworks as well as the artworks that they create for their practice. Noé Montes is an artist based in Los Angeles, working in the mediums of photography, social practice, installation, and public art. For more than 20 years, Montes has documented and worked with underrepresented communities to effect change through storytelling, education, and advocacy around social, economic, and environmental issues. Born in Modesto, California, Montes grew up in a family of migrant farm workers that traveled throughout California's Central Valley, following harvests of fruits and vegetables. Montes has extensive experience working with cultural institutions, including commissions with Annenberg Foundation, California Community Foundation, the Getty Foundation, and LA Metro. Felix Quintana is a visual artist and educator whose practice spans photography, digital media, collage, and installation. Quintana received his MFA from San Jose State University and BA from Cal Poly Humboldt. Felix has exhibited at the Venda Museum, the Vincent Price Art Museum, the San Jose Institute of Contemporary Art, and the Craft Contemporary, among others. Awards include California Community Foundation's Fellowship for Visual Arts, and his work is in the public collections of Oakland Museum of California, Ultimate Art Collection, and of course, our Los Angeles Civic Art Collection at the Regional Planning Department. Rebeca Méndez is an artist and designer whose work is represented in public and private collections, as well as exhibitions at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, Hammer Museum, and the 55th Venice Biennale, and more. She is the founder of Rebeca Méndez Studio, an award-winning independent design and art studio in Los Angeles. Méndez is a tenured professor and chair in the Department of Design Media Arts at UCLA, and is founder and director of the Counterforce Lab, a research studio that harnesses the power of art and design to engage with the reality of the global ecological crisis and its ties to environmental injustice. Also experienced, all with diverse backgrounds and also relevant to our world today and those who may have aspiring careers in the arts as well. So I'm so grateful you're all here. I'm so grateful to LA County Library for this program, and I'm going to turn it back over to Isabel to carry forward the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. And I mean, I'm just going to say thanks to everybody a million times for the next hour, because thank you, LA County Department of Arts and Culture, for also supporting our programming here as well. Noé, Felix, Rebeca, super, super grateful to have you all here this afternoon. And I think I speak for everyone in attendance when I say that I'm very much looking forward to really hearing more about how you all have arrived at this place in your art making careers and in your practices. And hopefully I'm sure we will learn lots from all of you. I wanted to start off our conversation this afternoon at the beginning, as far back as you are willing to go. My first question for all of you is, do you have a first memory of art making? So is there like a piece that you made or a project? I don't know when this would have been, but that you can think of or call back to as like, that was a time or a thing or an experience of creativity that really like sort of lit me up or something like that. And whoever wants to take it away, go first, please.
I can start it. Thank you.
Thank you, Noé.
First of all, Isabel, thank you so much for having us. Uh, Rebecca, it's good to meet you here. Felix, it's good to reconnect. We know each other. So, just in terms of the first artwork or earliest artwork that I can remember, it must have been when I was in junior high, so like seventh or eighth grade. And I was, you sent the questions so that we can kind of think about it. So I was sat and thought, I was like, what were those? It's been such a long time. But what I remember is that I think it might have been in seventh grade. There was a contest, an art contest at my junior high, and we were supposed to draw a plant. One of the teachers had a plant, and they said, "I want you all to make a drawing of this." And it's a contest, so turn in your drawings. And I had no art training whatsoever. I don't think I'd ever taken an art class, but I just sat and for some reason paid really close attention to the plant, especially the light. So I just drew this plant, and turned in my drawing, kind of forgot about it. And then a couple of weeks later, I was surprised to learn that I had won the contest. So that was really cool. I won $25 and I won the plant, which I gave to my mom and she planted in her garden.
Oh my
Um,
God.
it was it's called a monkey plant. It's like this little plant with yellow flowers. Uh, so, I don't know that it made an impression at me at the time, but it definitely stuck in my mind, and then other people would comment to me, oh yeah, you're that kid who's good at art. And I didn't think of myself that way at all. So, yeah, that might be among the first memories I have of art making, kind of having a place in my life.
Can I ask what the medium was? Were you using
It was
colored pencils or
just
crayons?
a pencil drawing. It was a line drawing, but
Okay.
it had I paid very careful attention to the shading. I remember like cross hatching, even though I didn't even know what that was called, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just a pencil drawing of a plant. So I wish I had it.
Yeah, I
Um,
was gonna ask, do you still have it?
no, I don't know where it went.
Felix or
Great. So,
Rebecca?
yeah, I can follow. That was beautiful to be here with everyone, and good to see you, Felix and Noé. And so, yes, so let's start. I think that I remember one of the most important memories I have is when I was young, our family would go camping to the jungles of Mexico, where I'm from, and we would be going down to the Yucatan and Campeche and Quintana Roo, and then we would be camping and with a charcoal of the fire, we would make rubbings on paper of the glyphs, of the Mayan glyphs. So that was really the first moment where I not only fell in love with the idea of the synthesis of a symbol, right, and understanding the complexity of a symbol, but to actually be able to do a rubbing and take it home. That was amazing. And then, maybe because we would go every summer, and then a couple of years later, when I was around 12, I remember again having camped for about 3 weeks in the jungle, and then going to Merida, to the governor's palace, and seeing the murals of, this incredible muralist that it is Castro Pacheco. And it was the murals around the history of the Maya and the history of Merida, powerful, with incredible description. The entire, there's about maybe 30 murals in there. And from again the history of Mayan civilization, from the cosmology, all the way to of course the conquest and slavery and genocide. So it was very, very strong. And I remember telling my father, is like, I want to paint like this. And about a month later, my father cleared a wall in the house, took down all of the paintings, all of the frames, everything, and just said, Rebecca, this is your canvas. And so I painted a beautiful jungle full of birds, very inspired by Henry Rousseau. And it was one of those things that I felt the fear of the canvas, and at the same time, how empowered I was about being able to have I consider myself as an artist. I don't think I name myself that, but I felt it gave me the confidence of pursuing an art field, career.
Mm-hmm. Well, where's the wall? Is it still
The house is demolished. It was so sad.
No,
It no longer exists. I mean, when we moved into that house, it was really in the outskirts of Mexico, like in Coyoacan, in the south, almost to Tlalpan by the Estadio Azteca, if anybody knows it. But yeah, now it's more industrial. So the house is gone, mural is gone, but yeah, the mural is in my heart. Yes.
Mhm, indeed.
Yeah.
Felix, I'm curious to hear what you have to share.
All right. Thank you, Isabel. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Yeah, again, like Noah, kind of sat and started to think about this. But yeah, I remember really being interested in like drawing and mark making from an early age. So, when they would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said that I want to be a drawer. And my teacher at the time, kindergarten teacher, was like, you don't want to be a drawer, you want to be an artist. So I just love to draw. Yeah, I remember some of my earliest memories just being obsessed with drawing and trying to replicate like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z kind of characters. But I remember being in El Salvador, and I used to go often when I was a kid, and learning how to draw Dragon Ball Z characters in San Salvador when I was there at my my godparents' house. So yeah, I think drawing was really always a love, for me, and I didn't really consider myself that good. I had friends who were like really talented, and I always kind of really strived to be as good as they were. Um, but I actually I picked up my first camera when I was in high school, so I was 17 years old for that, and I had this like wide eye fisheye camera. It was like a toy, like 35 millimeter film camera. So I just took a lot of like street, photography with this like wide angle kind of lens. Just of like graffiti at the time, I was really interested in, graffiti, and also just home, going on different missions with my friends, taking the bus, in high school, just being, rebellious and having a camera. But I just felt like it was like a really special time in my kind of youth, to document that what I was seeing around me. So yeah, so that was definitely, I still have some of those original like negatives actually, which is awesome, but some of the early drawings are for sure just lost. But yeah, it was always like kind of trying to be cool like my cousins or friends that I thought were really cool for being like awesome artists. And so yeah, those two things, yeah, drawing, writing was always really important. Um, but yeah, photography a little bit later, like in high school.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I mean, I know it's so interesting to think about. I mean, what those first pieces and how poignant it is that like they get lost in the wind sometimes. And if only we could go back to our younger selves and say, you're gonna want to remember this, you're gonna want to save it, you're gonna want to keep it. But we can't. Maybe that makes it more meaningful. All of you sort of mentioned like this was a nice segue into my next question, like not just stories of like making art alone, but like all of you had other sort of characters in your story, other people who you were inspired by or who supported you or encouraged you or gave you cash. And I was wondering like, sort of, what were some of your teachers or mentors like in your journey as an artist? Like who, apart from some of the people you've already mentioned, like Rebecca, your father, or your friends, Felix, like do you have memories of really important guides along your journeys, and who were they, and what was it like working with them?
Well, I'll start again just to keep the rotation.
Thank
Uh,
you.
My path to becoming an artist has involved a lot of me convincing myself that it's okay to be an artist. So over, many years, I worked with many people, um, and there's definitely been some people who have been really influential. Sometimes even it's just like one interaction with someone that really kind of sets you off in a direction or sets you thinking about a thing that you haven't thought before. So there's been a lot of people. Like I have really been influenced and helped by so many people throughout my life. Um, but I guess one of the experience that was really interesting, and again in terms of like thinking about this question beforehand, was my experience of not necessarily mentorship, but my experience of working in Hollywood,
Mm.
the production
Mhm.
world. So at some point, like I said, I was trying to convince myself that it was okay to be an artist. So I slowly moved into that in different ways. And part of it was working here in Hollywood in production as a production assistant and as a photo assistant for many years, like a decade or more. And throughout that time, I saw and worked with so many different artists, photographers specifically, and I learned so much with that experience. I learned one of the most important things I learned was that there's as many ways to be an artist as there are artists. Like I think I came into thinking that if if I pay attention and see how people are artists, then that's what I need to do. But then after working with a lot of people, I was like, oh, everybody does this differently. They just do it according to what works for them or their personality. So that was a really big lesson. I was like, I mean, I guess the lesson is be yourself, which just seems like a simple one, but you
Big
know,
one.
there are different ways to learn that. But yeah, being in that world, I also kind of learned about the complexity of our projects, how complex they can be, how many people it takes to get something done, and to come around a little bit to the civic art, you
Mm.
know, it's something that has been useful in that. I'm like, oh, this is a collaborative process with many people. Um, so so yeah, I'd say more than mentorship, the experience of working in like a commercial and editorial space actually really taught me a lot about how to function in a fine art space.
I'll continue. So,
Yeah.
my story is in a way similar as when I was in Mexico, there was no, even if I was very exposed to art all through our life, whether it was in going into the churches to see the artwork, or again engaging with the pre-Hispanic stele and symbols and all, and the muralists. I think that the idea of being an artist never was a reality for me. It's like it always, my father really wanted us to be in business or in some engineering or in the sciences. They were both, my mom and my dad, scientists, chemical engineers. So it was very, very far away. And so whenever I would choose a field, like I wanted to be, I loved mathematics, I love physics. So I thought I'm going to be an astronaut, right? Because it was a time that everybody wanted to be an astronaut at when you're 10 and you see all these Apollos going. And I was talked out of everything, and I was just I was easily influenced to just not knowing what to do. And my cousin Laura really caught me, and she was the most important influence in guiding me. She said, Rebe, you're good at this. Go and be a graphic designer. It's such a young field that no one will talk you out of it. She was an industrial designer. She had just studied. So I started studying that. Nobody could talk me out of it because nobody knew what it was. So it was an interesting thing, and it was the closest to art that I could be that was allowable. So I started learning, and I loved it, and I learned a lot. But it was when I started working on a piece for the Getty Center. Julia Bloomfield found my work somehow because there were no websites, no nothing, no way to find you, but I would publish all the things that I would make. And she said, Rebecca, come and do a poster for the fellowships. And she said, choose from all of our collections where to go, what to do. And I went into the Fluxus collection. And when I saw the Fluxus collection, that's when I thought, I want to be an artist. It's like, I don't want to be a graphic designer, I want to be an artist. And I learned, just George Brecht and all these ways of expressing through a graphic language, the graphic, more complex ideas. And so that was the beginning. And later on, of course, I worked for about 20 years in design to be able to be able to start having much more a way of entering into the art world. I was able to do a master's degree in fine art while I was working full time at art centers. So it was a way of being able to enter the worlds. So I somehow I ended up in a place where I felt so good about having gone through that trajectory of the visual arts, and so many teachers, so many people that influenced me to be able to find my pathway. And when I was at Art Center in the master's degree, it was Lita Albuquerque, who was the one who really was has been a great mentor while I was in school and afterwards, of being able to then understand that also my love and my passion for the natural world and for being in the land and for engaging in field work, that she pretty much said, Rebecca, is like, I understand, because during that time, Art Center was heavily influenced by, structuralism, and that was, was not interested in that abstraction. Much more, I was interested in the way in which we experience the world and how we make meaning through that experience. And I think Lita helped me to understand, yes, continue with that, follow that heart. So I really for me, she's an incredible mentor among so many other people. I mean, we've had mentors almost like every other week, but I wanted to make sure to mention her. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I agree that I feel like for me, my education was like a mix of like formal and informal kind of moments that kind of help guide me. Like I've learned more like in a bar, than I had like in classes. So but yeah, just to kind of like take you guys through, I was really interested in art and writing, music, but I only really took like a handful of art classes. I think I took one art class in middle school, and then one art class like my senior year, and then like a digital photo class. But like anytime I took an art class, for some reason, the teacher always like kind of made me like the unofficial TA. So I really just wanted to learn how to draw and like, be creative. But somehow I always got kind of pulled to the side, like, hey, I need a TA. Like, would you mind helping me? So I kind of had that role, where I was like, man, I really want to just work on this cool, fun stuff. But in high school, yeah, one of my art professors, he kind of pulled me to the side, and he told me that they have to film like this Dia de los Muertos, performance. So I was like doing video, for that, and just helping with little things. So I feel like it was kind of like a precursor to me just being like an educator as well. Um, but yeah, for many reasons, I think I was like pretty much self-taught throughout like high school. And then I eventually went on to like undergrad, to study photography once I found that. But yeah, a lot of times I was really just learning from friends, whether it's like learning how to screen print, make my own shirts, from friends, or learning about photography and stuff like that online also, being able to research things. This was like around 2007, 2005. But yeah, once I got to undergrad, I think I was really fortunate to have like a really strong mentor at a time when I was really far away from home. I feel like there was a lot of moments where I could have given up, but I was really lucky to have somebody who really like believed in me, and also kind of early on really gave me this kind of talk about being an artist and ways of kind of working as an artist and also as an educator. So I feel like, yeah, I was fortunate in that way to have like a strong mentor to help me kind of prepare for what's next, and also kind of help me grow as an artist, because I feel like it was hard for me to focus on like one thing. I was really interested in so much, like video, graphic design, painting, sculpture. But yeah, I feel like it was important to have that someone who can like, have those hard conversations with you about, what's it gonna be, like where are you gonna go next, and also how are you gonna eat, as an artist, how are you gonna survive? So I feel like that idea of like grad school and teaching was always kind of planted, in me because of that. But yeah, and I feel like that same mentor for me really kind of helped me understand as far as like different interactions, having good examples of how to navigate the world as an artist, and even like those moments in class or where it wasn't working as well. I could use that as an example of how not to navigate in my own world, in my own experience. But yeah, at the same time, leaving school, I felt like it was like those moments like in community, going to art exhibitions or hanging out after an art show where I learned more about what it means to be an artist, exhibiting your work, and yeah, having those conversations kind of outside of a traditional classroom, but very much, guided by artists who were self-taught and just had that experience as well. So in many ways, that education, like being in an institution, really helped me. But I also had to take time to kind of like unlearn, some of those things and expand, beyond that kind of like mindset of just being a student. But yeah, I was lucky to go to like a smaller school way up in, Northern California. I had time to kind of really focus and yeah, kind of take time away. So yeah.
I have a question that I'm thinking of right now. So it's, you all have not been able to prepare. But like hearing you all talk about sort of that the journey to where you are now, and I think many of us feel this whether we're artists or not, like involves a lot of like, oh, I went down one path and that wasn't the path actually. Let me try something else. Or like I did that for a little while and that didn't really hit right, or that didn't feel like the right thing. Do you all have like, I mean, Rebecca, you mentioned graphic design a little bit, that you started to do that, but that seemed to lead to something else. Like, have any of you ever sort of like pursued maybe like one type of art or one path or one career, and you were like, no, that was not the right thing for me. I'm gonna try something else. Like, I hope that question makes sense. I'm just curious what some of the like detours might have been in some of your careers.
So, all the time, to answer your question, has that happened?
Good
Yes,
answer.
all the time. It feels like it's a constant process of doing that, of just trying something and adjusting and readjusting and readjusting. Um, but for me, maybe a significant one was, as I mentioned, I worked in production here in LA, and that was when I moved to LA about 25 years ago. I think I came here with that goal in mind. I want to be an editorial and a commercial photographer, like a shoot for Vogue and Nike, and these things that seem like they're the pinnacle, that seems like success. But as I started working in that space, I wanted to do it less and less, especially over time when I saw what it was like. When I saw that the photographers who were doing the thing that I wanted to do seemed to be really unhappy. And that's not true for all of them, but many of them, and I would have conversations with them. They would say, I never see my family. This is such a hustle. You can't stop, you can't breathe, you got to keep moving. Um, and then in addition, I was gaining an awareness and a consciousness of social issues and kind of uh, my relationship to society and to issues that I thought were important. And, you know, uh, I started kind of thinking more about the effects of the effects and the pressures of capitalism on people's lives. And I realized that being a professional photographer in that way was very much aligned with just continuing, that lifestyle, those kind of social expectations and pressures. So I, figured I think I want to do something that is more meaningful, and so that was an adjustment to moving towards a different kind of creative practice for me.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that in my life, I've made many kind of moves that they begin to kind of accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and that has been wonderful. I think one of them has been like, my interest in the sciences, that I began very seriously going into that direction. And then now, many, many, many years later, it is when I am collaborating with scientists, and my work is very much research-based and artistic field work, and all the ways in which I'm kind of bringing full circle in that area. So I love how all of those began to kind of, it's more like it just stayed there resting for a little bit, and then it kind of just awoke with a lot more energy. With regards to graphic design, is like once I left corporate design, because that was what was killing me. I was really in the wrong place, but I also was at a time when I needed to, I chose to stay for my OPT, my to as a foreign student, that I had the 1 year. And then this company that was doing a lot of corporate design hired me, and I'm like, okay, I just, thank you, I need to stay. But then when I started learning about, and working more in cultural design and in social issues design, it was when I just felt my voice, also very, very concerned about social issues and environmental issues, began to kind of like really kind of move into and utilize all of the knowledge that I had acquired about communication. At one point, I decided that it's so easy to communicate to 50 people and maybe easy to communicate to 1,000 people. Can I communicate to 1 million people and globally? So I decided to take on, as I said, I'm going to be 5 years in advertising. And I worked in White and Kennedy in Portland, and I worked in New York at Ogilvy and Mather. And it was one of the things that I just wanted to know, what are the strategies to be able to create enormous, like large stories, and to work with all these creative people, from writers to photographers and filmmakers. So I realized that I loved creative direction. And so that was very, very helpful when I did that. So I loved doing that for 5 years, but I also knew that that was not the world that I wanted to be in. So when I returned to Los Angeles, I worked for the Los Angeles Commission on Assaults Against Women to implement everything that I knew about, communicating to creating brands, creating strong visual languages. So we created Peace Over Violence, so maybe some of you would know. So I kind of love the idea of being able to utilize all that might, all that knowledge towards something that was social and environmental. And that's also why I created my Counterforce Lab. So I knew that as an artist, I could engage, with most of my art always deals with environmental issues, social issues. And it's small in a gallery, it's small, right? So then I thought, well, through education, I teach ecological arts and justice, and I create my lab about engaging with the realities of the ecological crisis, and we create actionable projects. So it's my way of being able to kind of maybe broaden the understanding of how we express ourselves creatively in the field, in the world. That all of them, it's rather than this or that, is like this and that and that and that. And so it's kind of, my trajectory has gone in all places. And what's great is that at times I can jump back into being a designer, graphic designer, and being a creative director, and at the same time being exhibiting artist and public artist. So I love the and. It just really gives us, activate so much more of all the ways in which we can communicate and share our stories and create work that is meaningful.
Totally. I love that, being in the and of it. Yeah. Felix, do you have?
Yeah, definitely. I think what like Noé was saying, that there are like these moments that happen all the time, but I think there's this book that I really like called Art and Fear, and kind of talks about fear and the different trials and tribulations of an artist, but talks about this idea of like when artists find like specific moments to quit, or like stop something. And I was actually a freshman in undergrad, and I was doing photography, but also in general really just scared, for what's going to happen. I'm going to be an artist, I want to make my parents proud, I don't want to struggle. And one of my EOP counselors had told me, hey, there's this architecture program at Harvard, at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. So I actually applied and got in. So I spent the summer, on the East Coast at Harvard. I was like 17-year-old, kid from LA, at like the most elite, grad school for architecture. I studied architecture for like 5 weeks or so, and it was brutal. Like I cut my hand the first day trying to make a little mock-up. Like I struggled so hard, wanted to quit so much. And ultimately it was a great experience meeting other people, but I really learned that like this is not what I want to do, I don't want to be an architect. Like I really want to be a photographer and be an artist. So I feel like that experience was really amazing. But I tried to like convince myself like, hey, why don't I just go be an architect instead of an artist, thinking that architecture would be that much more, sustainable. It's really not, not at all. So yeah, I feel like that moment was important to kind of really dive deeper into it. And yeah, and in recent times, when I was in grad school, I got an opportunity to like do like illustrations for a nonprofit organization, doing like grassroots organizing. So I was actually doing that for like the past 5 years, doing like way different work that I do, right? Work that people will probably never see, but I got to work with community, and do a lot of like kind of relevant artwork during COVID. But yeah, over time, I felt myself kind of feeling more disconnected to it, knowing that it's not really where I want to go, So I love the work. It was awesome to exercise my drawing interest, but it was ultimately not where I wanted to be. So, like those moments happen all the time, and at least like acknowledging it. And even though it's hard, the job might pay well, or it might give you fame and all that good stuff. It doesn't always pay off. Yeah, like if you don't love it, or if it's just not really calling you in the same way. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a constant negotiation, right? For like trying to go into the right direction and hopefully making those little steps in the right direction, even if it feels hard or it feels like a struggle. So yeah, it happens all the time.
I mean, really good, like answer, just to hear all of your answers sort of kind of circling the same theme, obviously, of like following your gut, it sounds like. And like, it sounds like all of you have I don't know, experiences where like it helps maybe to try something that isn't super right. And I like Rebecca's bringing back like but you can, it's all experience, it's all something you can build on in the future. And I think that's all really relatable. I'm sure a lot of us have had experiences of not doing the thing that they were meant to do for a minute. I want to segue into sort of talking more about about the civic art, which is why we're all here today. I hear all of you sort of discussing a little bit a theme that seems to be emerging about the push and pull for artists in particular between like sort of commercial success, financial success, more utilitarian-y kind of projects or something like that, and then the stuff that lights you up and really makes you feel excited and inspired. And I think I'm really curious to hear from all of you, because I have never done any civic artwork before, like what the process is like of creating sort of like these large scale commissioned artworks, so to speak. And so can you give us a little peek sort of behind the curtain, and maybe we can just start with the county projects that you've done, that were some of the things that were shown in the slideshow earlier. But like, how did you all come to creating those pieces, or like getting those pieces into the County Civic Art Collection? I'm just sort of curious, like, how is the sausage made, so to speak, when it comes to what we end up seeing in our libraries and in our public places?
Well, so in my case, uh, the artwork that I made for county, that county commissioned, came about as a part of the county's paid program, which is the Public Artist and Development Program, which Isabel, I don't know how much you know about it.
Give us all a brief overview.
So, LA County Department of Arts and Culture developed this program called the Paid Public Artist and Development Program for a couple of reasons, but I think the main goal of it is to bring more artists from underserved communities, from marginalized communities into the space of public art. Because as you know, was my impression before I kind of came into public art, public art was a thing that old white guys did. You know, it was like all the artwork that I knew that was, public art I couldn't relate to it. Well, and part of it was that I wasn't very educated about it. So I didn't know much about it, but I would just see artwork in public spaces and, often it's like large scale sculpture, didn't know much about it, not super interested in it. But as I learned more about it, I did see that the people who got to make that work were established artists, usually male, usually white, kind of, I guess what you'd expect, unfortunately. So this program was developed to address that, to bring, like I said, people from, more inclusive, to have the space of public art be more inclusive. So 8 artists were selected as part of this program, and this was last year. And each of us, got to propose a project. We got a budget to realize our project, and then we met very regularly to kind of discuss the development of the projects. We got so many resources, and not the least of which was the fact that Dyson and Womack, who are an art agency, public art agency, they do quite a bit in that space, was managing and helped develop it and kind of facilitated the entire process and project. And so I was a part of that program, and that was how my artwork came about, as well as the other 7 artists who were in this program. And I'm just going to plug the program right now a little bit, because it is now in its 2nd iteration. So people who are watching this, who may be watching this, you can apply to this program. It's really great. You will learn so much. You will learn how to, create a public art project from beginning to end, and you will be guided along the way the entire time. And so it's really good. So that was how that public art project came about, the one I've done for county. I've done a commission for the state as well, but yeah, how the sausage is made involves a lot of people, a lot of collaboration.
Collaboration, yes, as you said.
So many things that you don't think about initially go into a project like this. It's very involved. It takes people from, you need to find a fabricator and installer for your artwork. You need to work with county to get, the permits and permission to place the artwork. In my case, my project involved a lot of government representatives that I wanted to interview. So getting the access to those people was really, important. So it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes, working with people, and a lot of management, a lot of project management, budget management, things like that. Behind the scenes, but projects can't happen without those things.
Rebeca or Felix, yeah.
Yes. So let's see how I entered into public art. Really was as a through graphic design. I was designing a lot of, I had many clients, I had my studio of graphic design, because even if I had studied art, I still, again, I needed to make a living, and I was teaching, and I was doing graphic design, holding my studio. And I started doing a lot of the graphic design, the publications for the architecture department here at UCLA. And from, posters and, books and all kinds of newsletters and things. And then suddenly the architect Tom Main called me and just said, Rebeca, have you ever made a mural? And I'm like, well, I've made posters. Sure, I can make a mural. No, the moment I started trying to make a mural, it was 33,000 square feet. My computer couldn't handle it. So it was, I had to rent computers, I have to figure it all out. But every time, like he would say, have you done this? It's like, yes, right? And then figure out how to do this. So it was my beginning with moving from two-dimensional to three-dimension was for the with Tomaine for he built a restaurant called Tsunami Asian Grill in Las Vegas, and it was the most complex architecture. And so the idea is like we would work together. I did a film shoot. It was all, I'm saying 20 things at once. Hold on, let me get my order going. I'm so excited to remember that project. But it was fusion of Asian cuisines, right? So then I thought, it's like, this is all about dissolution, right? You dissolve the boundaries and then you eat and it dissolves in your body. So then I did film shoots underwater with all kinds of, ways in which expressing that Asian cultures, an amalgam of Asian cultures. And it was a beautiful thing of being able to work with Tom and I would work the in between, the merging of the apparent two-dimensional aspect of an image with the three-dimensional volumes that he would create. And so that was my first mural. It was this complexity. So that was exciting because immediately then Tom and I continued working in other things. And that was in 1999. And then, so my trajectory is through architects. After that, I started working with Greg Lynn. We proposed something else for New York. It didn't happen. Then I worked with Frank Gehry on an enormous project that, 2008 crash happened, so the project didn't happen. But then Michael Lehrer then kind of connected with this other architect who was working on on a project that involved the LA County Arts and Culture. So it was for the and that was my first project for the city, and it was the recording register county clerk.
Mm-hmm.
We're all voting and everything happens in that warehouse. And it was a very simple mural, a banner that really kind of visualized the symbol of Los Angeles from, having this very, proud indigenous woman holding a nourishment in a plate, and then facing LA, the Pacific Ocean, and in the back is the San Gabriel Mountains. So for me, it was almost like I just wanted to kind of have her vision, the trajectory of the ocean all the way to the back in the mountains through the trees, right? The idea of diversity through the diversity of the trees of Los Angeles. But anyway, it was just the beginning of being able to enter from a poster, literally from a poster. I moved into a big poster. So it was an exciting trajectory, because if I think about it, I'm still doing the same. I'm telling stories through whatever means I have. It is graphic, photographic, filmic, because more and more my world is very much in as an exhibiting artist is video art installations, but still kind of focuses in the same, creating an immersive environment in which you are able to, again, through the experience that I've had and the experience that you can get, I'm able to then, we all make meaning through that, right? It's like, what is the meaning that we want to engage with? So how the sausage is made? Yes, enormous. Having been a graphic designer and holding my business for, 30 something years, 40 years now, because I started working at 22. I mean, I had to. So I opened my first graphic design studio at that age. And so budgets, managing, I would say that it's usually creative 1/3, and then the rest, the other 2/3 is managing and working with fabricators. And I love getting my hands, dirty with, steel makers and, glass makers. And it was just all the craftsmen that can do that. So yeah, it's little by little, but it really was the first for a lot of people that feel intimidated for entering the world of art or public art. It's a big poster if you're going to be doing murals, right? So just go for it and say, yes, I can do it, and then figure it out.
Absolutely. Good advice. Figure it out. Just say yes. Felix, what about yourself? How have you been involved?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, but I was doing a site visit for another project. We were eating tacos, and I got offered to submit a proposal for a project. So
Oh,
sometimes that's just how it goes down, over some food,
were
some
the
good
tacos
food.
good?
Oh, they were amazing. Yeah.
Memorable.
Yeah, it's very memorable. But nah, just to say, I was invited by LA Nomadic Division, aka Land. It's a nonprofit organization. They actually just celebrated their 15th year in as an organization. So I was actually asked by them to submit a proposal for the Hollow Records in downtown LA, which is where my project is at. So during this time, like I mentioned, I was kind of working on a project with them. This was like my first large scale public art installation commission through their MOAN land grant program. It's like a 5-year program, having inviting artists to submit their first or to create their first large scale public art installation. Yeah, so I was able to produce 2 installations with land. One that was like a street level, kind of like a wheat paste poster and like banner installation. It was like more of an ephemeral project that was open to the streets and lasted about like 4 months or so, and it's still kind of existing in different ways. And then I also did another installation at Plaza Mexico, which is in my hometown of Linwood. It's like an indoor swap meet, essentially, with the beautiful architecture around the whole area. So yeah, essentially, I was working with land very closely during this time, doing these public art projects, and yeah, they brought up this project at the Hollow Records that they were working on. They normally commission like ephemeral kind of projects or short-term kind of public art projects. So this was their first permanent civic art commission, and I think they started this process like way back in like 2018, 2019, went through different iterations, and eventually they asked a group of artists to submit proposals. So I essentially competed with I think 12 other artists for the proposal, and they eventually narrowed it down to 3 incredible artists. So I was really like, oh shit, sorry. I was really had to compete, with these people. They were incredible. And the funny thing is, I submitted a proposal, and I had to meet with the committee and present my work. And essentially, I got an email, which was bad news and good news. So the bad news is that I did not get selected for the project that was for the proposal. But the good news is that they loved my work so much that they wanted to do a second commission. So it was kind of like unprecedented, in that way. So yeah, they ended up finding money to do an additional project, for the work, which was incredible. Yeah, so that's just kind of how it happens sometimes. I was really fortunate and, got the same amount of budget, for my project. It was a little bit like smaller scale, but yeah, that was really, really cool process, just to have that opportunity and kind of make something, from nothing. And
Mm,
yeah, that's kind of a little bit more like behind the scenes of
yeah.
goes down. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from you all. Like, does i- is the process for you as the artist feel different when you're creating commissioned pieces of artwork versus like your personal practice? And maybe that's a naive distinction to make, like maybe it's all the same, but like is is it like doing a homework assignment where you're like, I have this prompt, it has to fit into this kind of thing, or like how do you sort of approach the process differently, or is it different at all?
I'd say it is different for me in that, okay, so I guess the first thing I'd say is that the themes are always the same. Like,
Okay.
so that's not different. I work with social issues, environmental issues, etc. Um, so it's like the same themes, but on a bigger scale with
Mhm.
many people involved.
Okay.
And that is pretty different, because obviously everything is on a bigger scale, um, including the budget, the people involved, the artwork itself, you know. So that is different. There's a lot of parameters that are set by other people other than yourself, which you have to then, account for. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes as an artist, you can just go on forever, in your head thinking about something or working on something. Uh, so sometimes it's nice to have very set parameters where you're like, okay, this project has to fit into this container.
Right.
So that part is different. Like I said, thematically, it's not different. Like I wouldn't do a project that,
It wasn't what you were
yeah,
aligned
that,
in
that
or
I'm not
something.
interested in,
Yeah.
that I'm not invested in, that I don't think, I don't know, that is not meaningful to me for
Yeah.
whatever reason. So,
And I,
so yeah,
I presume also like when you speak about the themes, like you are all hired because of your body of work. So people know like that when they want something to look like this or talk about this or explore this, that they come to you. So in that way, you have that freedom or confidence of like, yes, I'm here to do the thing that I do, which is that accurate, is sort of what you're saying?
yes, that's true. What you're describing is true. You're not. I mean, you're already in contact with these people who are maybe commissioning the work or etc. because you're in that world. They might have seen your work, or you're applying to it because you think you were interested in the
Okay.
project or the call. So yeah, it works that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Rebecca or Felix, what is it like for you all, the difference?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in terms of how also my art practice has changed. My art practice has gotten so much more complex in terms of the kinds of works I create. Sometimes they are, like my latest work, The Sea Around Us, that it is a 6 projectors, it's a 360 surround immersive experience that happens all underwater. And it is, and I'll put the link in a little while, but it is one in which I engage for, it's telling the multiple voices of the ocean. So that meant speaking with scientists, speaking with indigenous peoples like the Hashimen and Tongva and Chumash. And so a huge community, people in the Marine Mammal Center engaging with, filming and diving to be able to film this. So it's very complex. So in terms of like, for me, the public art sometimes is the easy one. It's the one that is like, okay, I'm gonna rest from these complex productions that are almost, like feature film productions that you have a crew and I'm directing so many people. So it brings the creative director in me, and it brings also, of course, the filmmaker and the storyteller, again, around issues of environment and environmental justice and social justice as well. So it's kind of, that is one of the biggest projects. My work didn't used to be that big. It used to be that I would just, go in the field, carry my 16mm camera, go to Iceland or go to, Chile or wherever I would want to go with my life partner, my husband, and my studio partner, Adam Ewens, and we would just go and then bring all these works that were more intimate. And I have to say that I'm kind of wanting to go back in that direction, because it is exhausting to have both the complexity of a public art commission and then the complexity of my exhibiting work to be equally, if not more complex. What is interesting is that with both of them, I engage with a huge community, right? I just have so many interlocutors, so many people that I work with for understanding the subject matter, understanding the land, understanding the history of the land, the relationship of the land of so many people, so that they do connect in that. I love engaging with people and learning the relationship to site and what is to do a place, like the idea of placemaking, and convey that identity. But what was very interesting is that my last public art commission, which was for the Portland International Airport, brought both of them together because it is a digital public art commission. It is 2 screens that are 140 feet by 20 feet, in which I took the same process that I do for when I do my exhibiting art, except that now it is enormous. And it was the idea of walking the earth. And so it's a poetic gesture of walking the earth in all these different 9 ecoregions of Oregon, but it's in a public space and it's a permanent public art commission. So it's an interesting thing how those two have come together. The January 8th Memorial in Tucson was maybe perhaps my largest public art commission, lasted 10 years, I think. So also the duration of works is
Okay.
in public art. Sometimes it is, of course, depending on what happens, but sometimes they're really long. But process of thinking, how I engage, how I investigate, how do I research, and how I connect, they're the same in that way. The productions are slightly different. Management of both are enormous. So, but it's, yeah. One exists in the museum, one exists, travels throughout the world in festivals. The other one is a permanent site, which is really nice also to go and be able to see it anytime. I love that permanence.
Felix, what are you thinking?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like in many ways, I think my work is like very deeply tied to like community, and my work is very much about the spaces, that I really care about and feel like connected to. So there's like an ongoing conversation with public space in my work, but yeah, I think definitely when I'm working in the studio, I ultimately have to rely on my own intuition and experience to like guide that work forward. But as far as like a civic art commission goes, it is a little bit more nuanced for sure, depending on other factors like just the project goal and vision in mind. Yeah, I mean, just the work itself that I was doing, went through a couple different like revision processes. I made a collage, like a large scale collage piece. Um, and at some points, I have to kind of show the process, and there were definitely some moments where like thinking about certain images and what kind of impact that can have. But luckily, since I was working with the collage with different layers, it was a digital collage that I made prints for. I kind of made handmade prints and scanned them and made a kind of digital collage. So it was kind of like easy for me just to kind of switch things around if needed. But yeah, I think for artwork that's gonna live like in a public space, it is important like to really think about who's gonna see it and how that can kind of impact them. Having them feel like a sense of pride for that artwork. Specifically for the piece that I made, it was about like talking about the past 100 years of the Department of Regional Planning. I was able to go through the Department of Regional Planning archives and include some of those archives into the artwork as well as my own photographs and found work. I also hosted these like pop-up portrait workshops in different places around LA, and some of those portraits made it into the artwork as well. So yeah, I think it was a really great way to kind of see how I can kind of merge different images. And also it was a challenge to try to represent like LA, all of LA County into that piece. So I think that's it's kind of right to what you're saying, that they choose us as artists, because of the work that we're doing and wanting to trust that. Luckily, the organization I work with, Land, kind of helped me, negotiate some of those things, through the process. And for the most part, after a certain point, I feel like I had freedom to kind of do what I had to do. Once the artwork got approved, I'm like, all right, I can go, go crazy and do what I have to do. But definitely always with the community in mind. And to me, I feel like having that kind of engagement embedded into the work is important. And yeah, just kind of working with a little bit more empathy in mind as well to what how this work can function. So yeah, it's similar to how I work in the studio, but yeah, the past few years working on like a lot of public art projects, I kind of really miss just being in the studio, being able to play and experiment. So I feel like having a balance of the both is nice.
It's so interesting hearing you all speak, and that's it, like Rebecca saying something of almost the opposite of like, oh my God, I love the ease of a public art project or something. I mean, it's new to me. I'm learning a lot, like the complexity of these projects, and I like what Noé was saying about project management is something that maybe like I don't think, and maybe others don't think of when they like in going into this kind of public artwork process is like that it involves so many more people and so many, more parts or something. But then Rebecca, you're saying like some of your personal work involves just as much of that like complexity in project management as well. So it's a little bit of
But you know
both.
what? The thing about it is that there's nothing easy about a public art commission. No, there's no ease, but I think that it is the way in which somehow my own practice is as complex. And I love, Felix, when you're saying is like I miss the intimacy of being able to do when I was doing some monoprints and some things like that, that it was just there's something so poetic. So I'm starting to do some ceramics because
Yeah.
I need to actually just it's too much, right? To be able to have your own practice and your public art commission to have the same intensity and engagement with so much management and budgets, enormous, like big budgets that you just, so no, I just want to actually go and do monoprints and ceramics.
So
Yeah,
interesting.
I just
Go
want
ahead.
to interject that for me, for this particular project, which I just put the link here in the chat,
Thank you.
the the commission from LA County, it came about at a really great time for me because this is an idea that I had been thinking about for many years. So when I was in the program and we were asked for our proposals, I was like, oh my God, like all the things that I needed to complete this project are available to me through this process. So it was just very lucky. Like I felt like this particular project could not have happened any other way, other than me engaging directly with county government and through county arts. So sometimes that happens as well. Like I feel like oh, again, very lucky. All the things that I needed to realize this project kind of could only happen this way. So I was very, very happy.
Wonderful.
Can I say
Well,
something about
yes.
exactly that? What you just said, Noé, the whenever I'm working on a project with LA County, I feel safe. I feel in good hands. I feel guided. The project management from the county, they're incredible. I've worked with, it's a great conversation of different kind of management, right? They're managing, working with the architect, working with, all the other parties. I'm managing my team and I'm managing the creative aspect of it. But there's something that is different when I'm doing my own practice that I miss that collaboration with the county, that it is so I don't know. It's just, I have to say that I have to use the word safe. There's the experience that they bring, the super professionalism about how to handle very complex issues of when there's disagreements with the architects or when there is problems with the community or whatever it is like they're just right there as your partners, just like really holding your hand through it. And they themselves handle a lot of them. So I love that from the public art commission side. I've made public art commissions without the management of either Metro or the commission, and it just felt like, to be honest, I had to educate them on what I learned from working with the county and working with Metro. And it's pretty different.
I'd love to hear that. I'm sure that arts and culture is we'll clip that. Yeah. Um, that's wonderful to hear. we're at 4:45. I have lots of more questions I could ask. But I do want to open it up in case anyone does have a question in our audience that they would like to share either via our chat or the Q&A function. Please send us any of those now. I will ask another follow-up question in the meantime, but I just want to let anyone who's still with us that like send us some questions if you have them. I did sort of want to, and maybe this is like a more philosophical, sentimental question to close out or approach closing out our program on, but like, I'm curious what. Oh, okay, I really like this question, but I'm going to be really quick and like. Well, no, I'm gonna let's pull this question from the chat actually, and I'll come back to my question because I've asked enough. Renee is asking, how did you form relationships with organizations and cities that led you to being invited to apply for those apps? I think that's a great question that some of you have touched on a little bit already, but I would love to hear more about like what was the first step into getting the connection then to those applications. I hope I summarized that well, Renee. Anyone who wants to take that question?
Sure, I can answer first. First of all, hi, Renee. You know, in my case, there was definitely like I can trace back this particular opportunity to people and events over probably like 10 years or more. And it, you know, 10 years ago, it wasn't something that I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking if I do this thing, it's going to lead, you know, it's going to lead me to have this opportunity in 10 years. Well, it was more like I was out there doing a lot of things, taking everything that kind of came along, meeting people, being engaged in the world, being engaged with projects that I thought were interesting, that I thought could feed me creatively, and that I would get to meet people that I wanted to meet, you know. And at the same time, it was me like just trying to sustain my practice and take care of my financial responsibilities, and so it's just being engaged in the world. And then over time, and again, looking back, you realize that you're planting seeds, maybe even without doing it intentionally. You know, you're meeting people, they like you like them, you stay in contact, often through social media, you know, and then eventually something comes along and they might think, oh, this person is, you know, this is a good alignment. This is a good opportunity for this person. And you are made aware of it. And so that's one way. And I've seen that in many instances in my own kind of career and work. Just being engaged all the time, like being out there, talking to people, doing.
Yeah, I'll second that completely. And then the other thing would be to, you know, I go to their site and see what opportunities are there and other sites, so that we're also kind of looking at maybe there's something I don't know about that's happening I should be aware of. But yeah, it's a lot about, especially the first step. To me, is like it was very helpful. It was done through Michael Lehrer, right? The architect that really kind of brought us into understanding that this is how things worked. I didn't know that that's how things worked. So sometimes you do need someone that kind of like gives you the hand, and then from there, you know, you perform the best way you can, and they'll keep on looking for you. Sometimes they ask you to apply for more opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, oh, first of all, hey Renee, how's it going? Good to see you in here. Uh, yeah, for me, I think, I guess I'll try to be like specific as possible. So I think it really is kind of about like putting yourself out there in many ways. So definitely, you know, I was sharing my work a lot, like on social media, some of my new projects, and you know, started following people again, making those connections. And then I exhibited my work. I had a solo exhibition at this space where I previously had a group exhibition I was a part of in 2019. Fast forward to like 2022, I had an opportunity to have a solo exhibition. And yeah, I always tell myself like before an exhibition opens, like, wow, like this is so incredible, and where will this opportunity take me? You know, like those opportunities always kind of lead to something. I just don't know what or how or when, but pretty much yeah, I was showing my work in this exhibition, and I just so happened to, you know, do a site visit with this organization Land that I met, you know, way back then. And we had been following, you know, each other for a while. And essentially, when I was in the space, they were saying that they would love to work on a project with me, start thinking about some sites, you know. Fast forward to like 2023, they had this new granting program where they're like funding public art commissions, you know. So yeah, I just think you know, obviously like exhibiting your work is important. You know, putting yourself out there and having an opportunity for people to see the work like as you intended in a space. And yeah, also just being open, you know, to whatever might come, you know, from that. Um and yeah, I think it does kind of go down to that, just in a way, putting yourself out there, sharing the work. But I think having exhibitions and also obviously documenting them, you know, making sure that there's like a buzz, you know, kind of going around. But also you know, for me, a lot of the projects that I work on are really personal as well. You know, I took this organization to my hometown. Like I mentioned, we were eating tacos, you know, in my hometown, and those kinds of things, you know, like really kind of being honest and open about who you are, and honestly giving a lot, you know, to these organizations or people that you want to work with. At least that's how I see it, you know, being myself and just being open in that process. And yeah, being willing to see, you know, kind of where things will take you from there. It's kind of how it happens, but a lot of times, honestly, through chance, you know. I do apply to certain things, definitely, but for the most part, it's just kind of doing my work, finding time to like put it out there and share it, and also just showing up to things, you know, even if it feels like out of the way, or like, man, this is just, I'd rather be in the studio, you know, making stuff. But yeah, having those moments to just put yourself out there and just making those connections, putting your best foot forward. So yeah, I think it is really like in many ways like a social kind of thing, but also ultimately your work will speak for itself, and hopefully you'll be ready for those moments. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sounds like you guys are telling us to all go network, which is so scary, but it's always so important to get your face, your work, your personality out there. I like what you said, Felix, about it being a very social sort of enterprise sometimes. A lot of, and I think you, Noe and Rebecca, you echoed that as well, just like being sort of in the conversation with people and being known. Um, a follow-up question that's a specific is, does the county or maybe any other organizations you've worked with, like, is there any sort of pre-qualification process that you have to do before you can submit an RFP or anything like that? Or have you encountered opportunities that are very open-ended where anyone can submit something? What is that? What's that process like?
I think it varies quite a bit, but generally you don't have to be pre-qualified unless I think Metro has a specific like pre-qualified artist pool. Um, so sometimes, but then they also have opportunities where you don't have to be a part of that pool. So generally, no, I'd say you don't have to be pre-qualified. You just have to, you know, find the RFP, the request for proposals, or the, you know, the call for proposals, and or sometimes they're called RFQs, a request for qualifications.
Mhm.
So, you know, look at those and see if it's a good fit, and then submit your work. Often, I will say that the proposal or the qualification submission is some amount of work itself. You know, it takes it takes some time, and sometimes you get compensated for it, but often you don't. And even when you do, it's not a lot. So it's a part of the process, you know. But to answer this question, no, I think you can just search these opportunities out and apply for them.
Good to know. I don't know if anyone else from our audience has any last minute questions to add in the chat. I think I can speak for everybody when this has been really fascinating, really enjoyable. I don't know if I'm planning on becoming a public artist anytime soon, but like I definitely feel now like I'm a little bit more confident that I could try, and I think what some of you have been speaking to is really just like it's good advice for anyone in any career, in any part of their life. You know, your message is about continually sort of trying new things, following your heart and your gut towards the opportunities that feel right to you. I mean, that's evergreen and very inspiring. I'm just very grateful to all of you. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to add, or I can ask all of you panelists, like, do you have anything you would like to share? Any parting wisdom, any parting words, or any projects that we should look for on the horizon, forthcoming?
I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be a part of this conversation. I learned a lot as well. So thank you for that. And yeah, it's good to see you all.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And it's so beautiful to like meet you, Felix and Noé. I've seen you both, but it might be one of those times that we were social butterflies out there. But you guys are more than me. I have to say that whenever I feel like I need to go somewhere, I go like, when I do my work, I do it. But otherwise, it's just, yeah, it's being there, being with your friends. It's exciting. And that's how you connect. That's how you connect. It's a community. We are a community. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to the audience. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Kristina. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for a great conversation. And I also, of course, have to uplift the civic art team at the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. We have an incredible team with all of the work that they do, and of course, commissioning all of you and stewarding our collection and our programs. And in case there are any younger folks out there, I put a couple of additional things in the chat. We have one of the largest paid arts internship programs for college students. So if you're thinking about different careers in the arts, you can apply for that now. Our program is a companion to the Getty Morrow program, which focuses more on visual arts and museums. Arts is every other discipline: performing arts, arts education, literary arts, and more. And we have a couple of municipalities that participate, so you might be able to be on their public art program as an intern. And I put in something called Creative Careers Online, which is a platform we developed for younger folks to explore different kinds of careers in the arts. So you got to hear it today from 3 fabulous artists. And thank you so much to everybody at the library and to our team as well.
Yeah. Well, I think this has been a wonderful way to cap off Arts Month. We spend the next 2 days of April thinking about how we're going to carry the creative spirit through the rest of the year. And again, just a much gratitude to LA Department of Arts and Culture, LA County, sorry, for making this program possible, for making all of this wonderful civic artwork possible. Noé, Rebeca, Felix, you are all very inspiring and very generous with your time and your wisdom. And thank you all so much for being here. And I guess I should add very last, this program will be recorded and will be available on YouTube later. So keep an eye out. We can revisit all of their wonderful words of wisdom in the future. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. Ciao.